Hey, my name is Dan Rhesus, and I want to remind everybody about how insane Tiger Joe was and how crazy everybody was by even liking that content. The reason why I want to remind everybody about this is because there's many people who make YouTube videos that are in conflict with other people. The root motivating factor for those videos is very important to identify. For Tiger Joe, I still have no concept of what was going on. I didn't understand why he was fighting a woman who was in Florida and had no business no competitive business nature. I couldn't understand the root of the conflict, but it is what it is. And he's in prison for about 25 years. And the reason for that, or 20 years or 18, I don't know if anyone's going to pardon him or not. I have no idea. That is all entertainment. You see, what I do is I take conflicts that are in real life and use them for entertainment purposes. I also use them for educational purposes. That's it, just entertainment and education, nothing more. Because eventually these videos will be looked at and people will say, holy shit, this guy was saying it. Why was anyone not listening? A lot of people are listening. But the data is currently being suppressed in order for you to not associate me with any sort of, credit for anything I've done. Because I've done nothing. I'm just Dan Rhesus. Now, Brian Lustig, that's a different story. Now, Brian Lustig has amended a complaint from the Department of Labor in order to, excuse me, I'm sorry. Plaintiff brings this action in retaliation pursuant to the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, defamation and other applicable laws of set herein, okay? First and foremost, let me explain to everybody at home who I am. My name is Dan Rhesus. I've given a job to over 100 people. None of them were even close to qualified to have that job. And most of them ended up stealing from me or screwing me over in some way. And at this point, the job is pretty much done because my mother has committed fraud. She has defrauded her own company and she has left me completely by myself making these ridiculous YouTube videos. Just kidding. I restarted the brand and it's Microbank, and the customers are coming back. The stores are all mine. They used to be my mother's, and we just no longer do pawn. But what I'm left with is the best part is the lawsuits, the conflicts. Because unlike Carol Baskin, who is intelligent enough to understand that Tiger Joe will simply destroy himself, my enemies choose to fuel this little entertainment thing that I've created. So here's Brian Lustig. Now, let's discuss Brian Lustig. Now, for everyone who doesn't understand, I've created a website called harrispalmer.com. Harris is a really nice guy. He lives in my town. Harris did something really amazing for me. He was my stuntman. He was able to do a lot of amazing stuff that I needed to have done the last couple of years, including this amazing thing with a country club that I'll tell you about in a little bit. But Harris Palmer is a good guy and has, involuntarily contributed to the future of our modern educational process by showing future generations of why you should not counterfeit or copy other people. You see, I have gotten in trouble for counterfeiting, but I never counterfeited anything. But Harris's brother, and other family members have counterfeited and copied people all the time. Now, Harris's brother's a really nice guy, but he just copied a current landscaper in town. Harris copied my entire business model, stole my business. But that's okay. The best that I can do is start a website and show the truth of a lawsuit. That's all I'm doing. There is no defamation, and hopefully Harris sues me so I can depose him and get the rest of the information that I didn't get a chance to get the first time I sued Harris. And you have to know how the courts work in order to know what you're doing. See, everyone always thinks my motivation is money. It's not. I don't have any. I don't want any. I can make any as much as I want, but I choose to help humans. The best way to help the most amount of human beings is to educate them. That's it. That's what mathematically it is. You can't feed that many people. I don't even have any money. And if I did, I'd give most of it away to people who can't make it. See, I don't believe in charity because you don't know who you're giving money to. And many people who are receiving money have the capacity to make the money themselves. And the more money you give them for free, the worse they become at earning it. Then there's other people who cannot earn an income by themselves. Big difference. Charity doesn't really work economically or mathematically. So Brian Lustig, this guy, this is the main plaintiff of a Department of Labor lawsuit, okay? Let me explain to you something about litigation. Judges are not morons, all right? Lawyers think that they're going to keep a case out from going to court a long time in order to settle it. That is not the case. Here's the facts of the case behind 15 former employees that have decided to sue my mother and myself for missing one, maybe two paychecks. For years, I have personally pumped millions of dollars into my mother's company in order to sustain it. Over the last couple of years, the company went through hard times, and my mother took out a loan that I personally guaranteed for $750,000 just to pay Byron Lustig, Harris Palmer, and all these guys for the course of a year while the business was going downhill. As the Trump administration was making the economy better and better, so does the pawn business get worse. But the problem is that Byron Lustig and Harris Palmer, two college-educated white males who had no jobs and no prospects when I hired them, decided to create they had a great idea. This is what their idea was. We're going to get Dan to open up more stores, and we're either going to get the stores ourselves, or we're just going to take them, and then we're going to sue him in order to take his clients. Well, that's exactly what happened. You see, Harris Palmer ended up stealing my East Hanover location, and Byron Lustig, as you will see with multiple text messages, was supposed to be the manager of our Greenbrook location. But what Byron Lustig did was he ended up stealing the entire database. He stole customers. He continued to steal customers. He continues to do all these things. And what Byron Lustig did when he was in my store was he had multiple relationships with women. And all I wanted him to do was to be a good family man. And he just wouldn't do it. And you know what happens is that when he needed a place to be by himself, I said, you know what, Byron, you have a young child. You're a family man. Take your time. Grow the Morristown location. That wasn't good enough. You see, I knew what Byron Lustig was up to. So I dragged his ass onto Judge Judy. So if you want to see me and Byron Lustig, I gained about 45 pounds in order to make sure that everyone sees me as the idiot that I am. And we lost the case. But Byron Lustig was my main manager. And that's witnessed in Judge Judy. And Byron Lustig's entire lawsuit is that he was never a manager. He was misclassified. Now, had Byron Lustig just asked for his paycheck, which is what was owed, I'm sure that my mother and I would have just paid up this sum. But what Byron did was he crossed the line. You see, I had other employees that weren't as sophisticated as Byron. So Byron and Harris worked together in order to gather up all the other employees and to make up a story. And that story never happened. You see, I have 1.6 million emails sent by the 15 plaintiffs now. They're going to start dropping off, boys. And Brett, whatever your name is, the lawyer for Byron Lustig, your firm is not going to be too happy with you at this one. Now, Byron, I want to remind you that defamation needs to be proven. So when I talk about the facts of a case, please remember, Byron Lustig, that you were the one that started this case. You see, Byron Lustig did some really, really silly things. And one of the things he did really bad was that he was a bookie and pretended to be a pawnbroker. Not the other way around. He was my bookie. You see, I love gambling on sports. I don't even understand how people watch sports as an adult without gambling on it. But once it became legalized, I had a moral conflict with it because I realized that the legalization of something as dangerous as gambling does not allow me to engage in it anymore. And furthermore, when I joined a fantasy football league with my son's friends' parents, I realized that the quantity of advertising that legal gambling is doing is going to destroy our future generation. So it just wasn't fun anymore, nor could I do it in front of my kids because I don't want them involved in it. I think gambling is both the greatest and worst thing to have ever happened in sports, and men like Byron Lustig take advantage of men like myself who have found a weakness within it. Now for me, whether or not I was addicted, I don't know. But I know that as a human being who has a vice, another human being has the option to either help that person or hurt them. What Byron Lustig did was he really hurt me. And I did the best I could to say, hey, Byron, listen, why don't we do like this? We walk away like men. You go your way, I go my way. Byron didn't want that. Byron wanted to do, there's a lot of words I want to say. But let's just say Byron and his gout can go fund themselves. Because in reality, Byron, all I wanted you to do was to get me involved in this lawsuit so I could depose you. And you did that. And I appreciate it. And now all we got to do is wait for Harris Palmer, maybe scratch up a few dollars, hire an attorney, and sue me. And we got it all worked out. Now, both Brian Lustig and Harris Palmer are serious gun owners. So obviously that's not comfortable for me. But, you know, if you remember the Tiger Joe thing, he was the guy with the gun. You see, the more I think about it, I'm more like Carol Baskin in this whole thing. Except for like the whole creepy, like in love with the whole Tiger thing. Brian Lustig, I used to have a nickname for him. It was Lord Byron. And me and Leo called him that, but he never actually understood why we called him that. So if you're watching this, please understand that Brian Lustig is the closest thing to a gentleman of leisure that you'll ever meet in your life. And the best thing that Brian Lustig had ever done in the last couple of years for himself, well, I think he had a child, which was really good. I mean, being a father is very important. I was able to be a part of over 30 children that were born while I had employees work for me. I believe that blessings come when children come. And I thought that Brian Lustig could turn his act around. But when I realized that he's just planning a way to steal as much customers as he can, I quickly ran into action, called a few friends, got on Judge Judy, and made sure that he calls himself a manager on national television before he sued me for not being a manager. So, on that note, I got a lot of stuff to do, and I'm just waiting. And HarrisPalmer.com will have all of my lawsuits and everything listed on it, and the entire backstory, and all the amazing photos and videos and the recordings and everything that I have, because I'm Dan Reeses, and I keep everything very neat and meticulous and careful, only for when I need it. And I didn't think I would need any of that stuff I have on these jokers. But, you know, this is court, this is the law, and what's going to happen is they're going to ask for discovery. I got to provide everything I have. What happens after that, guys? Hey, always remember, I got no way to end this one. Have a great day.